Hi, we are back again this week with part two in Unworthy to Empowered with Christina Coleman. Last episode, we talked about the difference between confidence and worthiness, as well as the importance of recognizing the patterns in your life. Now, if you missed the first episode, please press pause and go back and listen to episode 36, because in part two, we're going to be talking about the root of getting to the pattern of that inner critic and how we can figure out what lessons we can learn from it, then move to acknowledgement and ultimately healing.
Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way.
What I would suggest people do is really intimately get to know this inner dialogue and this inner critic. I always encourage people and I support people in finding the deeper desire underneath the pattern, whatever it is. So an example for this, using the inner critic specifically, say you have a really big inner critic, you beat yourself up anytime you make a mistake. I would ask my client, okay, let's tune in. How might that pattern of beating yourself up, how might that be helping you? And they always look at me and they're like, it's not helping me. It makes me feel like crap. What do you mean? How's it helping me? I'm like, okay, let's slow it down a little. Yes, it's hurting you because you're beating yourself up. But if it were there, if we were to just put it over here as if it's another part of you that you're having a conversation with, why might this inner critic be here? How does it think it's helping? And they tune in and they're like, the answers can vary based on the person, but often it's something to the effect of, okay, the inner critic is here because it wants me to do better. It wants to hold me accountable to doing better next time. Okay, but what's underneath that? Why does the inner critic want to help you do better? Well, because if I'm performing bad and I feel bad, it wants me to do better so I don't feel bad. Let's go even deeper. I have an inner critic that wants me to do better because it doesn't want me to fail or feel bad. And it doesn't want me to fail or feel bad because then maybe I won't feel like I'm smart enough. Maybe then I won't feel like I'm good. There's this belief playing out with the inner critic that if I keep beating myself up and pushing myself to be better and holding myself accountable to being better, because at the root of it, I don't want to feel like I'm not good enough. I don't want to feel like I'm not smart enough. Or I don't want to feel like I don't belong or like people are going to reject me. So these are just some common ones. It's not always this. I find it really does tend to go back to I don't want to feel not good enough or like I don't belong. Those are two really big ones, but it can be a variety of other things based on each person's human experience. But we have to find what is all the way underneath pattern because the roots, I don't, we'll just say belonging or not good enough, that root underneath the critic is going to keep perpetuating the pattern of the critic until we work with it. Once we uncover why it's there, then when it comes up, we can bring that awareness to it and then the compassion, like you mentioned. So now I'm aware that my inner critic doesn't want me to feel like I'm not smart enough and I'm not good enough and like I don't belong. When I notice I'm beating myself up, I pause, I take a breath and I'm like, okay, again, speaking to it as if it's another part of you versus this is me, this is who I am. Like you're another part of me. You're not all of who I am. You're just a part. Then you get to speak to it and speak to yourself and be like, okay, I understand that you're here right now because there's a part of me that wants to do better. You're here right now because a part of me is scared, is really scared to feel like I'm not smart enough or not good enough. So then we almost get to thank it for being there as if we're welcoming a friend who's there trying to support us. Instead of judging the critic and viewing it as bad, bringing compassion, love that you said this, bringing compassion to the critic is fundamentally important. Instead of judging it or hating it or resisting it or wishing it would go away, then we're just judging the judger, which creates more judgment and keeps us stuck. So compassion to the critics are like, oh, I see you're here because you're scared we're going to get hurt here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trying to protect us. And I do this with myself all the time and my clients, and I like literally put my hand on my heart. And I'm like, thank you for being here. Thank you for trying to protect me. I see what's happening here because I understand it. I'm going to try something different. You've got it. You're here. I'll keep checking in with you. I'll keep coming back and checking in if you want to poke your head back in because you get scared again. But instead of beating myself up, I'm going to try something different. Thank you for being here. And then you can wash different types of compassion over yourself. Okay, I'm doing the best I can. I'm going to try to do something differently now, or whatever that language is. It's okay. Now, from this place of resourcing myself and bringing compassion to the critic, now it's from this place of compassion. What would compassion do right? How would love respond right? You're going to try that and try to move forward with that. And the critic might keep poking its head back and no, wait, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. But then every time it comes back, you take a breath and you're like, okay, I really hear that you want to keep us safe right now. And I appreciate that. I've got us. I'm going to keep being compassionate and I'm going to move from love. And just the more compassion you can shower yourself and the critic with throughout this whole process, over time, it'll gradually dissipate. Because I wish if I could wave a magic wand and have it be fixed after one round of this, my God, that would be amazing. But it takes consistency. And that's the key too. We can't do this once and then expect all of the critic to just disappear because it's there. It's hardwired within your nervous system for a reason. The inner critic believes it's keeping you safe from pain. It believes genuinely. There's a part of you that believes if I beat myself up, I'll do better and then I'll be safe. That doesn't just go away one time. You have to keep noticing it, keep bringing awareness to it, keep bringing compassion to it, and commit to doing different each time when you notice it. But then also, if you slip up, don't beat yourself about it because then you're just bringing the critic back online, right? That is a way that people can start to approach that on their own. Again, I've done a lot of this work on my own, but I still always have my own coach. When my coaches facilitate this for me, the magic that happens when you really have a conversation back and forth and do this parts work, it just expands and it opens and you learn how to create a relationship with that part of you and know that, hey, this critic can be here and I can still function and be okay because I've done the work and I know what else is true and I know what's true.
There's so much that you said that resonates with me. I would say that for myself, I've taken much different approach. I don't know if it's necessarily been more effective, but it probably has a lot to do with my personality of take the bull by the horns and okay, I'm going to make this happen rather than go with the flow and ease into it. I've named my inner critic and have even gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, shut up, Stacy. That's enough. Because it makes me laugh that I call this, and my inner voice is not necessarily called Stacy. I won't share who that is because it's a special person in my life. But it makes me laugh and it makes me stop. It stops that loop that can run rampant in my head. I've noticed over the course of my life, especially after going through some different experiences, some traumatic experiences, that I can get into this rumination effect very quickly. If something just triggers me, I can go right there. If I let it, it's like an emotional habit of beating self-sabotage and sometimes even like re-traumatizing yourself. Try to get myself to that point where I'm like, okay, stop it right now because this is not helpful. And then even just being more black and white of, okay, what are you actually saying? And is that actually true? Maybe that's the piece that I need to take that step because I feel like, because my next question really is about maintenance. Like you said, this work never ends. What are some strategies that you do to maintain progress? And do you see that after doing this and having this practice over years and years or months and months, that you are able to get to that point of separation faster, easier, or that you actually just do it automatically where it's like, oh, there she is, Stacy, mouthing off again. And okay, now I can put Stacy over here and Stacy and I can have a little conversation. Do you find that it gets, I don't want to say easier, but do you get to that point quicker?
Yeah, definitely. And it really is a testament to how much you've really looked at these parts deeply. So, like with Stacy, for example, it's when don't share anything you're not comfortable with, but it's like When Stacy comes up, I'm hearing that you're like, okay, get out of here sometimes. And that's okay. And sometimes it brings in laughter, and laughter is medicine for sure. But it's, are we pushing feelings and emotions and sensations away and almost numbing or bypassing? Or have we resolved a lot of that? And now we're good to just like, all right, Stacy, take a hike. We've got it. I know everything that's happening in here. There's being really honest with ourselves about how deeply have I really looked at this. It definitely gets easier without a shadow of a doubt. I hope that brings people some peace when they hear that. I have found that it gets really easier, and I see it in my clients. What we'll see is there's different levels of awareness. There's the hindsight awareness. Oh, I realized I was in that pattern yesterday. I see what I did with my partner, with my sister, whatever. Okay, I'm going to try something different next time. There's that. It happens in the moment, and I see hindsight. And another level of awareness is where we start to realize it in the moment while it's happening. You can see yourself in the pattern as the pattern's unfolding. Then there's another level above that where I'm in the pattern, I'm engaging in it right now, and I have the capacity to be with it, pause, integrate the energy, and choose differently, literally in the moment. And it does reach a point after enough consistency where it starts to become automatic. And there will still be times where it's a little unconscious and I have to pause and catch myself and be like, oh, what's here right now? What's that sensation in my body? Really pause. This is what I do. People can try it. I pause, I take a breath. Same thing I do with my clients. And I feel the energy and I'm like, okay, I feel butterflies in my chest right now, just flying around. Right. Is this feeling new or familiar? That's familiar. What does this remind me of? What images do I see? Where does this take me back to? And doing this in a present, mindful way. So you're not reactivating anything, of course. And that's why when it's facilitated, it's so great. But then I see the images like, oh, I'm about to go speak on stage or something, or on a podcast or whatever, and I feel all this coming up that's familiar. Where does that come from? Then I can connect the dots from where it came from and question my beliefs real time. So it's activating that old belief I had around people don't want to hear what I have to say. My voice doesn't matter. No one's going to listen to this anyway. No one's going to show up to my speaking event anyway, or whatever it is. I feel that, notice it's familiar, notice the stories and the pattern of thinking people don't want to hear what I have to say, which was some wounding I had in the past before I cleared it. So now I know it's familiar and I know where it came from. I can be like, oh, that's right. And I question the beliefs. Is it really true that people don't want to hear what you have to? Because we find the evidence we're looking for. If I'm looking for evidence that people don't care and people don't want to hear me and my voice isn't worthy of being heard, I'm going to find that evidence. But if I'm looking for evidence of the opposite, okay, like how is it true or more true that people do want to hear what I have to say? And then find as many examples as you can for the opposite of the belief that's limiting. And it might be hard at first. And if it's hard, find twice as many examples because you're stretching that edge and that capacity even more. As you stretch your edge and your capacity, view your perspective and your lens on this. It's like stretching a rubber band. There comes a point where the rubber band does stay a little bigger once you hold it there long enough. Then I hold it out here and it doesn't shrink back to the tiny thing it was before. The rubber band gradually stretches out. But you're really stretching your capacity to be with these parts when they come up, but also to be with the new beliefs as you're creating and integrating. Because I promise you, you will find evidence for what you're looking for. You know, when two people are in a political debate and they totally disagree, and like whenever Trump did this, Trump didn't do that. The one person Googles, Trump did this. The other person Googles, Trump didn't do this. So you're going to get all the evidence for how Trump did it. You're going to get all the evidence for how Trump didn't do it or whatever. Like I know politics is a dicey thing, but Google comes up with those answers because you were looking for them. You get the evidence you're looking for. And it's the same with worthiness, with what we're talking about here. Bringing that new evidence forward as often as you can and making sure you're not pushing away the emotions, the sensations in your body when they come through, making sure you're not bypassing, like being with it, letting it be here and accepting it versus trying to push it away and reject it. Because because it's really rejecting a part of yourself when this anxiety comes up or this fear of, oh, I'm not good enough to do this thing. When you push it away and say, no, I don't have time to feel that, go away, get over here, inner critic or whatever, you are rejecting a part of yourself, which means you're abandoning yourself. And that does not create self-trust. And it does not create a sense of worth. As you embrace these parts instead of rejecting them, you're not only accepting the part, but you're accepting a part of yourself, therefore accepting yourself. Acceptance opens, rejection closes. That is also key, without a doubt. Accepting these parts. As you continue to do that consistently, you're building self trust. As you build self trust, you believe that you're going to keep showing up for yourself, and you start to change your identity in the process of it, which is one of the most powerful things you can do when you upgrade your identity, upgrade your sense of worth.
How do you realize or how do you recognize that you're bypassing things when that's probably something you've been doing for a really long time?
That's a good question because it's something so many of us do. I have done it a lot in my life. I also like to humanize myself when I talk about things because I think sometimes we see people when they're at the really good stage, and part of us assumes that they just got there easily or they've always been there. Like I have been in the shit. I've had the inner critic. I have felt horrible. I have bypassed and been numb and in autopilot. So I want people to know, like, I have been there. I've walked the walk. Some indications that you might be bypassing. Well, bypassing is a pattern, first of all, just like people pleasing or just an inner critic, bypassing is a pattern. We can do the exact same thing that I explained before, which will be profound. Let's get to the root of the bypassing. I'll just give an example of what that could look like. My pattern is bypass. Let's look at that as another part of me. There's a part of me that bypass. Let's ask that part the question, why are you here? Why do you bypass? Well, because I'm scared you're going to get trapped in your emotions. Bypass because I'm afraid I'm going to get trapped in my emotion. Another layer deeper. Why am I afraid to get trapped in my emotions? I won't know how to get out of it and I'll feel terrible. I'll be in pain. Okay, let's go another layer deeper. I'm terrified of being in pain. Maybe it's because you saw your mom that way growing up and you don't want to be like your mom. You don't want to be in the same pain that she was in. It could be so many different things for different people, but it's important to keep asking why. Like, why are you here? Because I don't want you to get trapped in your emotions. So I bypass them for you. Why? Because it's going to hurt. Why are you so afraid of that hurt of your emotions? Because I saw my mom get trapped in her emotion. What's the fear underneath the bypassing? What's at the root of it? Understanding that alone helps us to identify it when it comes up, when we understand where it comes from and what's the intention. I'm bypassing to keep you safe. All of these parts are protectors. You're here to protect us and keep us safe. It's the same thing. Thank you for being here. Ah, you're just trying to keep me safe. Like how precious. Just more practical and tangibly, bypassing can look like almost, I don't know about using the phrase toxic positivity or whatever. There can be a layer of that. Oh, no matter what, I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm going. Like, oh, that brush went off me. I'm fine. We're good. Let's go, guys. It's just some positivity, jumping around through things and being quick to put up a wall or just ignore, push something away. We can also recognize things within ourselves by how we treat and engage with other people because we're often projecting. Maybe am I quick to cut off other people when they get emotional? If we're just using this as the example, like I'm bypassing my emotions as the example. Am I quick to, even if I do it in a nice way, doesn't have to mean I'm being an ass. Even if I do it in a nice way, am I quick to cut off other people when they're emotional? That could be an indication that we're bypassing our own emotions, right? Because if we're uncomfortable with emotions within ourselves, we tend to be uncomfortable with emotions in others. There's a lot of signs and ways to look at this, from identifying the pattern and getting to the root of it, but then also noticing what other patterns go with bypassing, even writing them down. What ways could I be bypassing in my day to day? Do I put up hard walls and firm lines? Am I really quick to set a boundary with myself or other people? And then I don't even think about it and confirm that boundary is what I really want? Is there a lot of just moving forward and taking action without reflection? I could go on and on about this. So you let me know if that serves and if you want to go a little deeper, but that's just some to get us started.
Yeah. What comes to my mind is as a way that I personally bypass is I become busy. I start doing a lot of things. And I see that in a lot of other people around me is that rather than get to the thing, now I'm doing all the other things because it's a way of having that forward momentum or that forward action, but not necessarily addressing what needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that so vulnerably because I think so many people can relate to that. And I can too from points in my life, perpetually doing, always being busy because it's like that same question I asked earlier. What do you fear would happen if you were? Oh, I fear then there would be space for my emotions to come up. And I don't know what to do with that. There's usually some kind of fear. And the protector part in this case is let me be super busy to protect myself from feeling the emotion or whatever it is. And then it's about looking deeper. But why do I fear my emotion? Why do I feel like I don't have the capacity to hold this? What am I scared will happen? And this makes me think of something. I'm so glad you shared this because it's so many people, Julie. I had a client who she was terrified that she would get trapped in her emotions because she went through a really bad phase with depression where she couldn't get out of bed. It got really dark for her there. So she was unconsciously projecting this onto her current reality. That depression was before therapy, before coaching, before she had done all this work on herself. She was fearing that if she got into some of these emotional things now, that she would go back to that place she was in when she was very low and depressed, and it was scary. But we helped her to wake up to you're not the same person now that you were when you were in that low place. When you were in that low place, you didn't have the tools. You didn't have the resources. No one taught you what to do with them. You just had all these feelings and you had no idea what to do with them. I can relate to that too from things from my past because we tend to look back on these moments in our past as if current us was there. Current you was not there. A different, less aware, maybe less evolved person was there. And we don't mean that in a bad way because we evolve and grow over time. But who you are right now was not the one there. And we helped her see that. All this perspective and insight came through. And I was like, do you honestly believe that you could ever get to that point again? Knowing everything now, with all the ways that you have changed, with all the resources at your disposal? Like the fact that you're in an active coaching package with me right now too, and that you've seen me every week and I support you. Can you really see that ever happening again? And she actually laughed and she was like, no. She was like, I'm so far from that person now. You're so right. There's no way that would ever happen again. Yeah, I could get sad, but you you're right. I would never get trapped like I did before because I know how to notice it now. My opinion is that once you reach a certain level of awareness and a certain level of wholeness, there's only so far back you can go. It doesn't mean your stuff isn't going to come up. It doesn't mean you're never going to revert back to something or go between a pattern a little bit, but there's a certain level you can't go back to anymore once you reach a certain point because you've just upgraded and expanded so much. She said she was like, I don't even know that part of myself anymore. But when I think about her now, because we also work through the judgment, she used to look back and judge that version of her and be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I let myself get to that low place. So we worked with that too. And now she was like, and now I look back, there's so much separation from her, but it's not because I'm judging or resisting her. It's because I see her with so much compassion. And I'm like, oh my God, sweetheart, you were in so much pain. You were in so much pain and you didn't know what to do. Oh, and I just want to give her. And then we did that. I dropped her into visualization and she met that part of herself. And tears came, but like beautiful ones of resolution, like these two parts, the part of her that was in that bad depression and the more expanded resource version of her, I facilitated them having a conversation, which brought more resolution to it because that lower depressed version of her got to express. And that higher self version of her now got to speak to that part and be like, look at us. Look what we become. There's an end in sight of this for you. You're going to be okay. You didn't know how to help us then, but I know how to help us now. And I've got you and I'm here. And it's so profound.
Love that. I've also gone through similar experiences where I've looked back and brought myself back to different past experiences to just express that love and that forgiveness almost of what happened. Do you ever do the opposite where, okay, this is where I'm at now, and these are the things that I'm experiencing now, and where do I want to go? Do you ever go through some thoughts of where, okay, what does that future self look like? What would my future self tell me? Do you ever do anything like
Yeah.
that?
Yes, yes, yes. I love it so much. Oh my God. I love doing it with myself. I love doing it with clients. I do it all the time. And it is just as powerful. What that could look like is, I even actually recently did this because I have really big goals and dreams of things I want to do with my business. I want to help so many people and host these huge retreats with so many people and stages and bring people up on stage and just, I just love people so much and I want to help them heal. But sometimes I have a little fear come up. Oh, are you qualified? Which I am, but I have these moments where my stuff comes up and like, oh, if you tried to do that, would anyone show up? Your stuff is going to keep coming up and that's okay. But I know where it comes from now. What I'll do in some of those moments is I'll tune in and I can guide myself through a visualization and meet my higher self. Like me 5 years from now, you 5 years from now. Think about how much you've grown and expanded, Julie, in the last 5 years. I'm sure it's phenomenal. I can feel that. I'm sure it is. And it's the same for me. The person who was 5 years ago, mind blowingly different. And I just want to give her a hug. Like, bless her. Imagine how far you'll be based on that evidence of how far you've come in the last 5 years. Imagine how far you'd be in another 5 years. Okay. And then we tune into that version of you 5 years from now. How does she walk? How does she move? When she walks up on the stage, how does she feel? What energy does she bring to the room? Is she second guessing herself? Is she doubting herself? No. You literally do it. Her shoulders are back. She's confident. Maybe she's wearing heels. What is she wearing? What does it smell like in the room? What is her energy? What does she believe about herself? How does she go about her day to day life? What kind of relationships does she have? Just tune into everything. Really build it up in your head so you can feel her energy. You can feel her vibrancy. Then you do the same thing. Imagine she was in front of you, this expansive version of you 5 years from now. If she actually had the opportunity to sit in front of you as you are now, she would not hold back. That you 5 years from now would want you to know how effing amazing you are and how capable you are. She would want you to know, sweetheart, we're going to be okay. Look at us now. Look what we're doing. You thought this wasn't possible. You to know it is possible. Look at us. Look at us. And then you have a conversation and you get to ask her, but I'm scared. Like, how do we do it? And she's, I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. And you're never going to worry about it again. And you let these parts again have this conversation and it brings softness to it and it brings resolution to it. The transformation I've seen in clients just in this conversation, like between you as you are now and your higher self, they leave so bright and expanded. So bright and expanded because that part of you're in the process of creating her right now. You're literally in the process of it. And literally imagine what a freaking gift it would be if you could actually sit across from her, like if time travel was a real thing and you could really sit across from each other and neither of you would hold back. That would be some type of conversation. And we have that. And it's beautiful. And things come through that you don't even expect. You're directly connected to her in that conversation. Then you feel like you can start to embody it yourself. And then it's all right. How do we take all the wisdom and all the magic from what just transpired there? And how do we start integrating it into your day to day life? How do you remind yourself who the F you are and what you're capable of and what you're stepping into on a daily basis? Start walking like her. What did you see in the visualization? What kind of clothes was she wearing? Do you wear those kind of clothes? I guess you'll go buy them and start wearing them. Does she walk with her shoulders back and her heels clicking through the room or whatever? Is she wearing like boho hippie clothes, all free, not caring what anyone thinks about what she's wearing? Great. Then let's start doing that now. You will get to being her even quicker. And one of the most important parts too is enjoying the process of becoming versus thinking you're going to have it all when you are her 5 years from now. Enjoy the process of becoming her. Such a gift. I loved that question, clearly.
Yes, you just lit up. And I love that. I think that's a part of this inner work that I don't think comes through enough is the joy. It doesn't all have to be working through your trauma and working through the hard parts. Of course, you have to recognize those areas of your life. Everybody has them in one form or another. But it's also about creating who you want to be. And that I think you really can bring a lot of joy into. I think that's really important.
Oh my God, I couldn't possibly agree more because so many of us, myself included, at points in my life, we buy into the misunderstanding that I'll be happy when I get the relationship. I'll be happy when I get the house, when I get the career, when I get the whatever. But it's not about the thing. It is about the feeling you perceive the thing is going to give you. I'll be happy when I have a relationship because I'll feel loved and connected. You don't want the relationship. You want to feel loved and connected. You want to feel love and connection. So start giving yourself love and connection now. And then you're not a victim to the relationship giving you something you can already give yourself. And waking up to I get to enjoy the process of becoming. I get to enjoy the process of creating that love, of creating that connection versus just chasing it and thinking that it is the way. Like, it is the gap. If you can fall in love with the space between where you are now and where you're striving to be, you have figured it out. Falling in love with the gap and the space between, it's literally the whole point. We're here to experience joy. We're here to expand. So experience the joy while you're expanding everything. And then, ironically, you expand faster because you're having a good time doing it.
Exactly. It's the dash. It's the concept of the dash in between the beginning and the end of that journey. I think so many people that are really getters, they don't necessarily, if they don't enjoy the journey, when they actually get the thing, it doesn't bring the desired effect that they thought it would. So, love that about enjoying the way, the process and the journey.
Yeah, that alone is life changing. We hear so many stories, even about professional athletes is a good example. They just train and they just go to get the medal or to win the thing. And then they get there and then they spiral into a deep depression afterwards because it's what the F am I supposed to do now? But if they were enjoying the journey along the way, they wouldn't spiral into that deep depression once they get the thing.
Thank you so much for having our conversation today, Christina. I've really enjoyed it. How can people connect with you and potentially work with you? Where
Yeah,
can they?
thank you for having me. This was really so beautiful. I loved everything about this conversation and I just loved how our energies jagged. So thank you for your beautiful questions and for having me. And the best way to contact me is just through Instagram. I'm on there regularly. So my Instagram, I'll just spell it out. It's CHRISTINAA_Coleman, COLEMAN. So yeah, just my Instagram is the best way to find me and just send me a DM anytime. I love connecting with people like the person behind the screen. So I want people to just feel so free to message me anytime. And if anyone's interested in working with me, but they're not sure, working with me and they're not sure and they have questions, I want people to feel held and supported because it's a big decision. It's like picking a partner. You want to find a coach, a healer, a supporter that you jive with in a good way. So there's an application link in my bio, and I offer free consultations too. We can hop on a 15, 20-minute, whatever conversation just to make sure you feel comfortable and supported and you get all your questions answered. I'm going to be opening up some spaces for one-to-one coaching for anyone interested soon. I have a lot coming this year. I'm going to be starting. Some of it's still in the works. I'm in a big, expansive, creative year. I'm excited to offer so many things to people. Stay tuned on my Instagram and I'll give people opportunities to get on the wait list for things. I'm really feeling called to create a group around worthiness. It's going to be juicy. I feel it. There's a group coming. There's hopefully retreats coming, in-person events, all the things. Yeah, I just encourage people to reach out. Let me know if you want to be the first to know so I can lock you in on something. And I also believe in just supporting people in a lot of different ways. If someone has a podcast or they want me to speak somewhere, or like you want me to host a group for your company or like your group of close, intimate friends, and you want to have a conscious gathering with your friends, I can do that too. I want to bring this work everywhere. I couldn't possibly love it more or be more passionate about it. So what I will say to everyone is just don't be afraid to reach out. And if you don't see it on my list of things I do, but you thought of it and you want me to do it, ask me. And if I can do it, great. Let's create some beautiful magic together.
I will put your link in our show notes so people can find you very easily. And thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for who you are. I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.